Hello and welcome back to the Atlantic Front. I am the Jakeman. Let's do an evening video because there is so much to talk about. We have the GFS that says amazing things. We have the AI euro, and we have the euros, also the normal euro. We have we've got the Canadian, we've got everything. So we're going to focus in on some of the three models that I tend to believe the most, and then we can take a really hard glance and kind of make some sort of sense of what they're trying to say. So we're going to focus in on the GFS, the Euro, and then the Euro AIFS. So I was going to get a video out to you guys earlier, but we had 5 inches of rain in the southeast in about 10 hours. So that was an enormous amount of rain, and some of the rain got in on part of a repair that we had done on the house. So I was able to stop the problem before it became a massive problem. But that did put a delay on the video here. So this is the way the world is. I'm going to hit play on this, and of course night is happening. We see these disturbances. This is going to be Tropical Storm Dexter right in here. So, and this is the disturbance 1. And let's pause this so we can actually do this. So that's Dexter. So we're talking about right around tomorrow tomorrow morning. So Dexter's going to go into a 40-mile-an-hour tropical storm. This disturbance we're going to talk a lot about because the Euro loves it, and the GFS wants to say that it just kind of sits out here and just meanders around. We have Henriette, which is going out towards, I don't think it's still going to go north of Hawaii, so that is excellent news. I'm sure they're going to get a fun amount of rip current and rip tides on the islands. So then we have the disturbance 2, so a 0% chance in 2 days, but the National Hurricane Center has said about a 50% chance of development within the next 7 days. So, you know my rule, we go anywhere between 6 and 8 days, and we really put some credence, and we start to believe it when we start to see some of these models come together. But when it gets past the 8 days, it gets a little bit dicey there. So, but I did want to show you this. So there, even if we keep hitting play on this, the disturbance sits out here. It just doesn't really materialize. And then you have this that's still sitting off of here. There's a lot of energy in this area. And when I mean energy, I mean a lot of energy. So the Atlantic Basin is absolutely warming up. You're talking about 85 to 89 degree sea temperature out on the Atlantic. And then, of course, in the Gulf, it's basically a bathtub. So it becomes very, very difficult. So that's how far it took. So you're not really seeing a lot of movement within all this. So a lot more disturbing air out here just west of Mexico, Guatemala, Nicaragua. All this area is really, so the equator is certainly giving us a lot to deal with and a lot to review, but it still is saying or staying rather quiet for the today. And then let's talk about what is coming up with the GFS. So here is our friend, the GFS. So that is Dexter right in here. And we are going to, let's see if we can make this all work. There we go. So we have Dexter sitting right there. And we have, well, that's way too big. Let's try to make this a little bit less here. So that's Dexter moving this way. And then you have the disturbance right in here that the National Hurricane Center is saying things are interesting. You've got some stuff over here. Henriette's out there out west. And then you have a disturbance right in here. I will say that there's something to watch because I believe this first one that we're going to see is going to end up being like a fish storm that goes like this. And then there's the next one that we're going to see. It's going to, so you have this guy, it's going to be out here, it's going to go like this. And then you have another disturbance right here. This one is the big question mark. So we'll see as we look forward with all of these models, but I wanted to give you the today portion of this, because when you're looking at today, you are not seeing a tremendous amount of activity minus Dexter. And of course, the enormous amount of rain that is just blanketing the southeast, flooding rains. You still see that cold air damming that's running into a lot of the moist air that's pushing up like this. So it is just destructive. Trees down, power outages. It's not as catastrophic, obviously, but you are seeing some big problems developing with all of this. But it also is setting up for a wetter pattern for August. So if you like rain, there's a good chance that this is going to end up being your kind of month. So here we go. GFS, this is Wednesday, August 6th. So we are moving and we see the creation. Remember how we're always dealing in creation. There's the creation of our first guy right there. And, you know, it tends to keep moving forward. The GFS likes this thing to start moving and continuing. So it goes, just skirts the Lesser Antilles and then goes in just north of the Greater Antilles. And it really does become a pretty large scale hurricane right in there. So you're talking about a strong Category 3 hurricane that GFS likes, and that will be the 13th. So we are looking at just 7-ish days, just under a week, so we're not talking about a tremendous amount of time here. We're just looking at the way this is setting up. So quiet in the Gulf, which is always good. And then you have some other lows that are setting up down here. And that was pretty indicative of what we were seeing with that equatorial explosion of precipitation. So as we keep moving forward, we have, well, let's not do that. So we have moving forward, and this thing keeps on getting right into, I'd say, about a strong category, or maybe a weak Category 4, and then it skirts the Outer Banks and goes up the coast and does make a real good brush with the Atlantic, and then it skirts up the East Coast, and it looks like it's going to make a landfall. So I think the skirting of it, when you see a hurricane do this like that, all right, it's going to lose some steam because of this area here, and of course land. So that's what the GFS is saying, and it's a pretty good whopper. That's about August 18th. So that is the GFS for you, with kind of just saying this is going to be a big storm. And that was the first real disturbance that came off in the MDR, or the main development region of the African western coast. So this then becomes a low that ends up, dumping a tremendous amount of rain on New England and Canada. And then you see a little bit of a push here for the GFS. And now watch this guy, okay? So this is an area that I believe is going to be worth some note. And then even this one down here, but the GFS is already at August 20th. So you're seeing a a good amount of activity, but again, this is way out there, 15 days. But it is showing that there is a increased level of activity and disturbance, and in an area that is really ripe for a hurricane. So that is the GFS, and then let's go ahead and finish off the GFS run, even though it's out there. And so it stays right in there in the Gulf. Now, I don't know about you guys, but anything that moves into the Gulf like this tends to get a little stronger than that. So I wouldn't be surprised if that turned into a tropical storm, or a homegrown is what they call it, because it kind of sets up, and then this one sets up so you can kind of see how it hits the Lesser Antilles, Greater Antilles. That'd be really a real big mess for the islands. But then it sits right in there, and that is, I can't believe that that's not already a low. I can't believe it. But again, August 21st, that is a way long way out there. So we are going to say that the GFS liked an eastern, North Carolina land on right around the 16th-ish. Again, this is not a forecast. This is strictly just models and education. But we're going to keep on looking. So that's around a category 3-ish storm. And then it moves back in, and then it kind of, maybe a category 2-ish storm, but it does hold together. So anyway, that is what the GFS is doing. So let's take a look at the euro. Here we have the Euro AI. I'm starting to like the Euro AI. I haven't messed around with it a lot this season, but I am definitely getting to be a fan of it. It seems to kind of keep a relatively low key approach to it and just say, there's a disturbance and we're going to run with these disturbances. And it's saying it's anywhere between 20 and 25% more accurate than all the other models. So every year that goes by, again, more education. And so I'm going to start using this, even though it is the Euro, it's just their AI version here. So that's Dexter sitting right out there, and everyone agrees with that being Dexter. And let's move it forward here. So we are then watching Dexter leave the building. We see that disturbance out on the west coast of Mexico. And then we relatively get quiet around the 8th. And there is a huge amount of disturbed air here. Remember, there was a lot that was supposed to kind of create some homegrown, since there wasn't really any frontal movement. This is a meandering, stationary front that doesn't seem to want to move. You can see a little bit of a creation out here that the AI likes. So maybe it takes that energy and pushes it out towards Dexter, because there is so much push of these winds that are doing this. Again, that cold air damping and the colder air. I mean, this is still, what is this, the 10th? So that's 5 days away. So we're still saying that there's going to be a cooler August. So anyway, all right, August 10th, and we watch that really dissipate. Then we see another creation, and that is down here right around that MDR. So we see that main development region as it starts to move west towards the Atlantic Basin. You can see some spin start to move forward, and then it loses its steam, but it holds between 10-10, 10-9, 10-8, and it keeps moving in. Now, the Euro AI has this disturbance going straight up into the Lesser Antilles, all the way up into the Greater Antilles, and it does hold together. That much landfall, I don't know how well that thing's going to stick together. Depends on if it makes it to the Gulf. So by the 19th, you're talking about it just sitting out there. So it had made some sort of landfall on the 17th, and then it really doesn't leave until the 20th, and they say it does go into the Gulf. That's what the Euro AI. Now notice the Euro AI did not like that eastern North Carolina up to skirting the East Coast and into Maine, into Canada. They liked it, or the AI Euro AI liked that it was going to come across and literally goes like a straight for the Gulf. Now, when a storm is able to eat, it's going to stay with as much of the fuel that it can. It's not going to leave that fuel. I don't know. I mean, it is a 980, so that it would be a good category 2. If it's fast moving, perhaps it could just be a category 2 and move forward. And that's what the Euro AI is saying. Let's take a look and see what the Euro. Let's move this back, and we're just going to go ahead and click this on the fly and see what that looks like. So this is the straight on Euro, and we're right around Sunday the 10th. And there's that disturbance right in there that the Euro AI liked, that was going to just take that Dexter move. Another little guy out here, fish storm, nothing. And then down here, you saw a little bit of a creation. Could it be this one? Could it be this one? We just don't know. And then as it moved forward, you then see a really good amount of disturbed air that sets up. This is very interesting. These two guys right in here are very interesting. That's interesting, and that's interesting. Because if you have something down here and have something down here, is this going to feed? Is this going to feed that? Who's giving what? Which direction is this going? So all we know is there's a lot of disturbed air, and then it's going to end up something. And this is again the 16th. So let's go ahead and move this forward. And then it says that the same thing as the Euro AI, a little bit further south, and it goes not into the Gulf, it goes into the Yucatan, and then I guess sets up here. Now, is there a steering column that says, we're going to do this? Or is it just going to go ahead and set up and just move like that? Or is it going to dissipate and crumble over the Yucatan? That's a lot of land. So we just don't know. But that is the tropical update. So you have the GFS. Let's go ahead and back this up here like this. We'll just do this on the AI. Why not? I'm sorry, on the Euro. So we'll do this in colors. So we'll do the GFS in blue. Something sets up out here and then moves like this and skirts up the coast and then goes out that way like this. So that is the GFS. All right. That is what they're saying. And I'm doing this because I want you to see the discrepancy between all of these models when you're getting out to the 20th. So then you have the Euro, which starts around here, and the Euro moves through and never gets into the Caribbean and then moves into the Yucatan. And then we just don't know which direction it's going to go. It's, if the GFS has a steering current like this, because, winds, we get a little bit more play with the jet stream. We can see how it's reacting. So, that's a large discrepancy, I'd say. And then the Euro AI, and let's go ahead and say that is a red one because they think that this is going to do this and move over the Greater Antilles and move into the Gulf of America. So we have that is the Euro. Let's do this right. That we have the Euro is saying one thing, and the GFS is saying another, and then our Euro AI is saying that it is going to be a pretty destructive storm that goes into the Gulf of Mexico, or the Gulf of America. I got to get used to saying that. But that is the way it looks right now. A lot of things to talk about. Yeah, we're talking about August the 17th, 18th, 19th, and 20th. But there is something to be said about August 17th, 18th, 19th, and 20th. They are some of the biggest players, or days that have some of the biggest players involved in the Atlantic Basin. So it really does ramp up just right up to the top. So I hope you've enjoyed this. I'm going to try to get this out ASAP, since these are the new model runs. And I will see you very soon. Thanks again for visiting the Atlantic Front. I am the Jake Man, and we'll see ya next time.